Back live tonight, John in Focus. Police are reportedly on the manhunt for a contractor who's accused of committing fraud to win a 2.2 million rand tender to provide gear to soldiers on peacekeeping missions. News 24 reporting that Mugisha Charles Mwali failed to pitch to court after being granted 5,000 rands bail in April. He's charged along the retired SANDF member Mendes Edi Mundlane. South African National Defence Force Union spokesperson Tim Flack joins us now for more on that. Tim, good to have you. Thank you very much for your time. What do you make of this particular, well, it's not an escape, but absence without leave, especially considering, of course, the work that the SANDF needs to do to root out corruption? Is there a commitment and a seriousness about that task?
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Well, firstly, I think it boils down to transparency, and a lot of that happens, and it happens to get lost when general officer commandings are allowed to, within certain limits, authorize purchases without tenders of services, and there should be checking mechanisms in these cases where services can be sort of expedited quickly in order to get tenders done. And the biggest problem is when several small cases like this, a couple of times at 2 million rand here, 2 million rand there, repeatedly occur, it adds up and it contributes to further financial degradation of the SANDF.
What does it boil down to? Is it merely pure incompetence from those who are at these institutions, for example, Central Procurement Service Centre, in terms of doing their work with diligence?
I think it boils down to, unfortunately, in South Africa, we all know that things have come to a point where people tend to start getting light fingers, and they seem to want to take advantage of the system, where they find easy gaps to make a quick buck, and I think this is part of the problem.
SANDF previously, of course, would have raised the alarm around what they call political protection, particularly of senior officials who are getting away with such actions. Is the new administration giving you confidence that this is something that would now be a thing of the past?
So far, what we've seen is positive. It's still a little bit early to see what the new administration has to be able to do, but certainly we are confident in the minister and the deputy minister. The deputy minister specifically have served as a member of the armed forces, so he is a military man and he knows what's going on. So we do have trust that they will look at these issues and start to reverse the rot that set in over the last few ministers.
Yeah. Have you seen a posture, suppose, from the authorities of wanting to be a little bit more protective of the resources, while, of course, your members are asking for more resources, but it becomes harder because of the red tape, I suppose, that is now being put to try and curb the corruption, for you to be able to access, for example, the kind of things that you need to be able to protect the country and for you to be able to be effective in your missions?
Yes, absolutely. I think we've seen the minister has brought it up that they need to start bringing in more resources to be able to provide our troops with the things that they need, and we're certainly seeing that things are pointing in the right direction in that regard.
What should happen now in this instance? I mean, do you think this particular individual who seemed to have gone AWOL is just being made a scapegoat? I mean, it emerged in the court papers that he says he was not even linked to this Pumulo enterprise. He was merely an Uber driver. Is he being made a scapegoat here?
Obviously, I think the investigations will have to point to what actually happened, and as the court case progresses, we'll start to see a better picture of what the NPA has put together in terms of this fraud. But the main thing is that we're looking at high-ranking officials that were involved in this. So these are two retired brigadier generals that were obviously looking to bump their pension up, and there needs to be a bit of an oversight review in terms of high-ranking officials having involvement in tender processes. And the unfortunate thing is fraud like this undermines trust in the SANDF, and it affects the safety and effectiveness of our troops. So dealing with this kind of thing will most definitely go a long way in providing the SANDF with the tools that it needs and the ability to do to fulfill its constitutional mandate.
What does it do to the morale of your members? I mean, tell us a little bit when you hear of senior SANDF officials being caught up in corrupt activity.
Well, being an ex-member myself, when I was serving in the force between 2007 and 2012, hearing this kind of thing happening was always upsetting, because these are officers that are officers in the SANDF are placed in a very high regard. They're generally seen as well-educated, well-to-do, honourable members of society that are put in places of trust where you can trust them. So as troops in the NCO ranks and lower junior officers ranks, seeing these high-ranking officials being accused of this kind of thing, we kind of had this feeling of are we ending up like the rest of the continent, where you hear these stories of generals making themselves get fat wallets? It's not good for morale. Because we should be able to trust that the guys at the top have our best interests at heart and have the country's best interests at heart. And when this sort of thing happens, it tells you another story.
Tim, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us. South African National Defence Force Union spokesperson, Tim Flack, there joining us with a reaction to that latest report. All right, let's take a break. When we continue in a moment, what's making news tonight here on In Focus? Stay with us.